The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Earnestly Podcast. I'm your host, Ernest EJ Christian, coming to you on a Friday, recording this on a Friday, taping this on a Friday, cloudy, sort of. It's kind of cloudy this whole week, to be honest with you. We kind of got a lot of rain this week. Today, I am actually going solo, and there's a reason to that. Now, solo shows aren't very uncommon on this feed, because I do that from time to time. I try to do at least once every 2 weeks, once a week. But you may have noticed earlier in the week, we didn't drop our week 6 picks with Zack The Degenerate. Zack The Degenerate, should I say. And there's a reason for that. Now, actually, we did drop the episode for about an hour until I realized that there was an issue. So, obviously, you notice on Wednesday's show, if you guys noticed immediately on the podcast feed, there was an episode that dropped. It was week 6 picks, and then a conversation with Boss and Jack. I played back the episode, not thinking, because I thought it was going to be okay, whatever. So I played back the episode after it published, and noticed that the portion with Zach and I doing our picks was a disaster. In other words, I don't know if it was on my end, but the conversation kept getting very scattered a little bit, off track. I just took the one track of the conversation, just put up on the editing feed, and hopefully that was it. And the conversation kept getting to the point where it was you were about five seconds off track of the conversation, to the point where it was almost impossible to actually save the file. I tried to stitch it up together. It was to be honest, it was a mindfuck to even attempt it. So I said, screw it, we'll try to record a podcast. So I ended up leaving the Boston Jack portion alone, on the interview alone, so it's a little shorter. But that's there obviously on the feed now. So we ended up cutting out the Zach portion and bring up only Boston Jack's conversation. So we had attempted to do re-record it. We agreed to record it last night, during the Patriots-Giants game, because I figured it'd be a blowout and it'd be a smooth night and we can get it done and just put up on Friday morning or whatever it may be. Well, it turned out that the game was a lot closer than I thought. The Giants were pretty competitive in the game till the middle of the fourth quarter. And furthermore, my wife came home early from work because she had gotten sick the day before. And she just had a cold and she needed help, and I had to take care of her and all that. So the whole night got off track, and unfortunately Zach and I couldn't really record. And as a result, with today being Friday, and then this episode has maybe one more day of legs because of Saturday, and then Sunday is the game itself. I just told Zach, listen, what we'll do is I'll do a solo podcast. Just give me the picks you did in the show, and I'll just tell everybody here solo what you picked again. So what we're gonna do is I'll just give my predictions for the week, the picks for the week, and I'll tell you also what Zach predicted as well too. And hopefully next week we should get back to our normal schedule programming. So again, it wasn't that we didn't do the podcast. We did do the podcast. It's just that the podcast ended up sounding like shit, and then we couldn't, and then other circumstances prevented me from getting it done with Zach. So, but it's all good. It's all good. So obviously the Thursday night games already in the rearview mirror. Zach and I both had the Patriots cover 16.5 points. They did us that barely, actually. That was actually a very competitive game last night. So we're ready. Both of us are both on the right track to start the week. So Zach gave me. I'm looking through the phone right now, actually making sure that he gave it to me on the issue. All right, so here we go. So here's the picks now for the Monday games. Sunday games rather. The London game, should I say, was the Carolina Panthers and Tampa Bay. The Panthers are 2-point favorites. The over-under is 48 points. I took the over at 48. I believe it's going to be a very high-scoring-ish game. Both these teams are, Tampa's 2-3, but they're actually playing good football. Carolina, meanwhile, is on a roll without Cam Newton, and we'll see if that can create some controversy down the road when Cam Newton has to come back to play football, because he hasn't played since week 2. Zack, meanwhile, also took the over at 48 as well. On the Bengals going to Baltimore to face the Ravens. The Ravens are 11.5-point favorites. The over-under is 48 as well. I took Cincinnati on the points. Baltimore's kind of weird now. Lamar Jackson's regressed a little bit. And it's also a divisional game. Cincy has been in most of their games for the most part. They've been competitive. Aside from like maybe 2 games. So we'll see. Zack took Baltimore on the game to cover 11.5 points. Okay. Seattle Seahawks heading to Cleveland face the Browns. The Seahawks are 1-point favorites. The over/under is 47.5. I actually took Cleveland on the 1.5 points to plus 1.5 in this game. Zack took Seattle in this game. This is a weird game because this is the game really. If the Browns are going to stay competitive in the AFC playoff race, they need this game. This is a desperation game. I'm taking the Browns alone because of the desperation factor. Meanwhile, Seattle, like I said, Seattle's 4-1, but like I said, I'm not impressed, but they haven't played particularly well throughout the year. In my opinion, like a top tier NFC team, number one. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Russell Wilson is a damn good player and a damn good quarterback and is in the MVP conversation. In fact, right now I have him, I would say Christian McCaffrey and then Russell Wilson is 1 and 2 as the favorites to win the MVP this year. It's more about Russell Wilson more than anything else, which is a testament to how good he is. So, but in the meantime, I took Seattle on plus 1.5. Zack took Seattle to cover 1 point. All right. The Houston Texans headed to Kansas City versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 5-point favorites. The over/under is 55 points. I took the over in this game. I expect a high-scoring game from both these teams. Pat Mahomes against Deshaun Watson should be a phenomenal game. Zack did actually put a note here. He said basically anything I do with KC, he's copying me. So basically, he took the over on KC. All right, the next game here is the New Orleans Saints against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are 1-point favorites. The over/under is 44.5. I took the under at 44.5. Zack took New Orleans to win this game outright. This is actually a very low-key, underrated game of the weekend, by the way. Trap game, probably. I spoke to a Saints fan on Facebook a couple days ago, and he actually agrees with me on that. This could be a trap game. Okay, probably the game of the week here. Or one of the games of the week. Definitely one of the biggest games of the weekend. That's the Eagles head to Minnesota to face the Vikings. The Vikings right now are 3-point favorites. The over/under is 43.5. I took Minnesota to win and cover this game outright. Desperate game for the Vikings here. It's also a 1 o'clock game, which means Kirk Cousins has no excuse. Again, as long as he's playing 1 o'clock among 10-plus games in an hour, he'll play well. This is not a marquee game in terms of it being on Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football. You know what I mean? This is actually a 1 o'clock game where he can hide himself and play well, not feeling pressure. Also, desperation game for Minnesota. Zack, however, took the Eagles in this game, plus 3. Should be a really entertaining game, honestly. Okay, the loser bowl here, of course. The Washington Redskins heading to Miami to face the Dolphins. The Redskins, Zack's Redskins, I'd say, are 3.5-point favorites. The over/under is 41 points. I took the over 41. Zack took the Redskins at minus 3.5 to cover. We'll see what happens. Basically, we'll know right away who the worst team in football is, because these two teams, in my opinion, are the absolute worst teams in football right now. All right, 4 o'clock games here. We have this is a big one. The unbeaten San Francisco 49ers heading to LA to face the Rams. The Rams are 3.5-point favorites. The over/under is 50 points. On this game, I took the Rams to cover because I think this is a desperation game for the Rams. I think the Niners, I'm still on the fence with the Niners. They did rank high on my power rankings this weekend. I think number 4 on my rankings, but I'm still on the fence a little bit, although that was a big win against Cleveland on Monday Night Football. Zack took the Niners plus 3.5. And yeah, so another one we don't agree on here. This one here, The Atlanta Falcons heading to Arizona to face the Cardinals. The Falcons are 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 51.5. I took Atlanta for the same reason I took Minnesota, for the same reason I took Cleveland. Desperation. Atlanta is, if they have any shot, and by the way, I don't even think they do, but if they even want to have a chance to get back in the playoff race, being 1-4, and the NFC being as tough as it is right now, you better win this game, or the Dan Quinn stuff really gets louder. Zach agrees also too. He also told the Falcons to cover this game in Arizona as well. The Dallas Cowboys heading to New York to face the Jets. The Cowboys are actually 7.5-point favorites. I got it at 7 actually. At 7-point favorites, the over/under for this game is 43.5. I took Dallas to win for the same reason I took Atlanta. Desperation game. It's another bad team, so hopefully for their sake, the Cowboys can take care of business. Sam Darnold is back for this game as well. Zachary also took Dallas to cover the spread as well too. Let's see here. We have the Tennessee Titans heading to Denver to face the Broncos. The Broncos are 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 39 points. This is actually an interesting game, to be honest with you. Two teams that kind of mirror each other, that are better than the record. Tennessee 2-3, kind of bipolar. Just when you think you ran them off, they win a big game, and then vice versa. Denver is 1-4, but better than that. They could be easy 3-2 right now. I took the under at 39, as did Zach. So we'll have the under here. This is going to be a defensive slobber knocker. The Sunday night game here, we're going to have the Pittsburgh Steelers heading to LA as well to face the Chargers. The Chargers are 6.5-point favorites. I took Pittsburgh with the points here at 7. Okay? I don't trust the Chargers. They'll win the game, but I don't trust them. Zach, however, disagrees with me, and he took the Chargers to cover the spread. And, yeah, that's about that. And finally, the last game of the weekend on Monday Night Football, this is actually a big one as well, too. The Detroit Lions heading to Green Bay to face the Packers. The Packers are he has a 4.5-point favorites. 4.5-point favorites. The over-under is 47 points. I took Green Bay to cover this game no matter what anyway, as did Zach. It's going to be a fascinating game because if we believe Detroit is a team to be reckoned with going forward, this is a game that you got to win. Also, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if this is true or not. I have to look back, and I didn't even look back at the stats, but Detroit won the last four meetings against Green Bay, albeit some of them are Aaron Rodgers. Interesting note there in terms of that game. So we have that. I'll have my gambling picks on Sunday on the social media on both Twitter and Facebook. I have not actually decided on the games on the picks, so I won't have them here as well. Other things I want to talk about real quick in the wrestling world. Tonight is the second episode of Smackdown on Fox, and also the start of the draft. So I think tonight also, I believe Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are fighting it out, battling for the number one pick, I guess, in the draft. I've never, again, not watching 17 years, I'm not familiar with the process of the draft. It's the first time when they started doing the draft, actually instituting the draft for the first time back in 2002 or 3. That's when I stopped watching wrestling in general. So I don't remember. I don't have too much knowledge of the draft. I know they've done this a couple times in between the 17 years since, but I haven't. This is gonna be the first time me watching it now. Of course, with all my wrestling, it's funny. The only show I can watch live, honestly, is either AEW and NXT. But I choose AEW most of the time. Although I didn't get to really watch the whole thing live. But I watch Raw always the day after, or I watch SmackDown the day after because I work, and then I'm off Wednesdays. But this week I watched the first match of AEW live, and I decided not to watch wrestling later on because, too much going on in the house, man. And I watched NXT also the next day or today. So yeah, interesting time to wrestling right now. We'll as you've noticed too, we've been instituting more wrestling content on the podcast as well, which is great. And we'll see more of that in the coming weeks also too, going forward. So, and especially basketball coming up too. We've got so much going on this podcast. Can't wait. Which, by the way, house cleaning note too. Also, Zach and myself, as well as our old friend, the pod, who hasn't been a pod in a couple of years, actually, Chris Manic. We've been in the podcast for 8 years. The early days. Chris was on the show in the early days. He'll be on the show next Thursday. We're going to do our NBA over-unders, win totals. As I said, two of my favorite podcasts of the year, the NFL ones and the NBA ones, over-unders. And we're going to do over-unders because basketball is, I believe, 11 days away. I cannot wait. It's going to be a fascinating season. Let me see. Anything else I want to discuss before I go? Oh, I saw a rumor also out there, sticking on wrestling, of course, that Hulk Hogan wants to fight one last time at the upcoming Wrestlemania in Tampa, which makes sense in a sense, only because of the fact that it's Tampa, it's Hogan, and that's his hometown. But much like I said about Stone Cold Steve Austin last week on the podcast about not wanting to see him wrestle anymore. He's playing wrestled 17 years. Like, it's one thing would be Undertaker, and even though you're still a part-time guy, you're still wrestling at least every so often, every few months. You still have a sort of like consistency behind that. But Austin has wrestled 17 years, cold turkey. Hogan has wrestled in a while either himself, and he's old. He's done for. Like, he's bad hips and all this, and replaced hips. He's almost 70 years old. I don't want to see Hogan wrestle again. I don't. I mean, what's the point? There's really no value in that. I mean, he may draw some eyeballs, but is it worth it for your product? Probably not. I mean, no. I don't want to see it. Like, let's show up and do the flexing and let me tell you something, brothers, and all that, and we'll be okay with that. But to wrestle, nah, I'm good. I'm good, fam. I'm good. So, I think that's about it for now. Anything else I wanted to address as well? I think that is it. So, again, shorter pod, solo, had to because of the technical difficulties we had this early in the week, but like I said, we gotta get these picks in. Zach and I are, by the way, in case you didn't know as well too, I didn't mention the pod, Zach and I tied last week again, so Zach is now 0-2-3 for the year, against me on these picks every week. I'm 2-0-3. And also, I may have mentioned this on the pod with Kyle on Monday, but I'll say it again because I can, on my gambling picks, which I'll post over the weekend. I went 5-0 on my gambling picks. So, just saying. Anyway, that'll do it. I'm on Twitter at EJChris7, Earnestly Speaking at earnestly.net. And until then, enjoy your weekend, and if anything comes up that I need to do emergency podcast on, you'll hear it here. Love you guys, take care, and see ya.